We have now launched the online Shockwave course. When I set the company up, which is over 12 years ago now, which is hard to believe, I was always about educating the clinicians as well, not just in terms of the technology. So when Dom Smith came to me with this idea of doing the Shockwave course, I was all for it. And Dom and Katie have done a fantastic job of putting it together. It's really impressive, really comprehensive. It is technology agnostic, so whatever system you're using will be able to help you with this. So it's a brilliant piece of work. The guys have done really well. So check it out and go to the link below and let us know what you think.
Hello and welcome. Today I am joined by Dan Buchanan, who is the director at Go Perform. So we've already had Luke on. Dan, I'm very much looking forward to hearing about you and your story. So thanks for joining. How are you doing?
Thanks. Yeah, good. Thank you, Andy. All right.
Great. Good. Where are you speaking from? What's that shirt in the background?
That is a DC United shirt. Yeah, we helped with the medical of the player from Crystal Palace to DC United a while back, so they sent us that as a thank you. So
Oh,
it's
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, another one of our guests actually is just, do you know Dave Rhodes? He was at Burnley for a bit, and now
Okay.
he's just got the head of performance job at DC United. So
Oh, very good. Yeah.
I used to play football with Dave, managed by Mark Leather. So
No way.
it's a small world on that one. But yeah, oh, cool.
Yeah.
So and I know that we'll touch on a bit more about Go Perform and how you got started, because I've been to your facility and it's absolutely amazing, and it's always really inspiring to go and see those places, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about how you ended up doing it. So where are you from originally, Dan?
From Reading. Kind of grew up here, I guess, supporting the football club. Ended up going to university in Salford, which was amazing, and did sports rehabilitation. And then headed back down south after my degree, initially working in ice hockey, and then kind of got into football over a period of a few years, really, starting in the Reading Academy as a part-time member of staff, and then eventually working with the first team as a soft tissue therapist for several years, which is where I met Luke, who we sat Go Perform with. So I think every chapter of your life kind of leads into the next thing, doesn't it? And I'm still very much in touch with some of the Salford University guys now, which is good. And they've gone on to do some really cool things, and the lecturers as well. So yeah, it's really good. Northwest is good.
So why sports rehab?
Great question. I think, this is 2000. So like year 2000 is when I went. There was St Mary's in Salford doing it, and Salford was the only full-time degree. St Mary's was a joint honours with sports science at the time. And probably ideologically, I wanted to work in sport, and I just saw that as the more obvious course. And we were lucky we had Ian Horsley and Lee Harrington and Julian Hatcher as like key lecturers. So they were physios that were choosing to teach sports rehab, which was really quite groundbreaking and really detailed and really good. And to be honest, I know there's a classic thing around state registration with physiotherapy, and many of my cohort went on to study physiotherapy afterwards, and people still do now. But I've actually not been restricted. I kind of developed a specialism in soft tissue therapy, which is what Reading FC wanted me to be essentially at that time. They were looking for first team masseur, and they just said, look, go on all these courses, get really good with manual therapy, and that'll be a really good skill set, and you'll be really employable. So I think my sports rehab background helped to inform me being a good therapist. And then now, 2024, I get to use all of my skill set and, rehab. I work alongside physios at Go Perform, and we all rehab together and we all work together, and we have slightly different ways of working depending on what things that we've studied, I guess. But yeah, it's been really good.
I love sports rehab as a degree. We've employed several. We got really good links with Salford, just being down the road from us, and we still work with the guys there now. And all the people that you mentioned, they've got a brilliant team there, and because they've got a physio course, they've got a really nice health science set up there in S&C. It's a really good hotbed, isn't it, of things. So what was it like that when you were doing it? Did you know what you were going into for sports rehab at the time?
Yeah, it's funny. So I'd worked end of my first year. I managed to get experience with the Reading Football Club first team, and I met a guy called John Fern, who you'll know of, hopefully. Brilliant physio, and he's now in Saudi Arabia. But he became a bit of a mentor. So I would be on my course, and I'd be ringing him up and asking him questions about ankle sprains and things. So my aspiration is someone from Reading that supported the football club. My dream was to work for Reading Football Club. So that's what I hoped for. the reality was when I finished, I didn't have 3 years postgrad experience, and they needed a chartered physio to do that role. So, um, which is fine. And I kind of knew that was the case. Ice hockey was different, and I could go into that and kind of get some good experience in that, which was great. But it's funny. I probably wouldn't change it now either, to be honest. I think, like you say, the Northwest and Salford in particular is a real hotbed, and I think maybe the rest of the country don't quite necessarily understand sports rehabilitation in the same way. And there's a lot more sports therapy courses now as well. But we, even at Go Perform, we go for the people rather than the courses. So there's obviously things we need for insurance potentially, but if we find a really good sports therapist or whatever they might be, then we want to invest in them and develop them and see how they grow. And we feel like it's really about your attitude and your willingness to learn rather than what degree you come out with, which is great. So we have right now 2 sport and exercise science placement students. Last year we had a sport and exercise therapy student as our second intern as well, and hopefully we'll employ him in the future potentially if he wants to.
Yeah, no, as we've got onto it now, and we're looking at this now in terms of recruitment, and we want clinicians to be a part of the team. And I'm a massive believer. I agree with you in terms of that the attitude, the person is actually way more important than the actual skill set that they've got. They've obviously got to be basically capable of doing it, but then it is that. So how do you do that? How do you interview for personality or for attitude?
Yeah, so I think, so for example, the sport and exercise therapy guy last year, when he was 14, he came and helped us with our photo shoot when we opened. He was a young person I'd known of for a while, and I thought he had a great character. And then years later, he applies, independent of me knowing about it, to be a placement student. And thankfully, I wasn't involved in recruiting, and he ends up being our guy, which is brilliant. So I think I'd say relationships is a big thing for us. So whenever somebody emails in and says, "Can I come in and do work experience or pick your brains or have a coffee?" we always say yes. And then we just remember which ones were remarkable, really. And we keep in touch with them a bit like I did with John Fern over the years. We want to keep that. I'm just going to move my camera slightly. We kind of, like nurture those relationships, I guess. So you end up with a 5, 10 year, 15-year relationship where you can be really honest and really candid and help to develop people, which is great. And we do have a formal recruitment process, and we have maybe 50 or 60 people apply for our internships from different universities. And the very first year it was 100, which was a bit crazy. But it's really down to how the person feels in front of us, probably more than their CV. This year we've got an amazing couple of girls, but one girl in particular from Mumbai, who's a foreign student, moved to Bath, willing to move to Reading for a placement year. And that's incredible commitment, isn't it? And so we were really interested to meet her and to see what she was like. And it's been really good. So I think as a team, we get a feel for somebody and then we just go for it. And then we really invest as much as we can into them to get them to where they need to be by the end of their time with us. So either employed with us or employed with somebody that we know. So we're really proud of our track record of everybody that's been on an internship, finding good quality jobs. Some of those have been professional sport, other clinics. One went to Pure Sports Medicine in London, which is great. So yeah, it's that thing of sharing quality with other people as well, and being porous as a group and allowing people to come in and see what we do.
Yeah, no, I think it's so valuable now. Like I'm sure you've seen the shift of over the last few years, particularly of the NHS, struggling. So we need private clinics like you guys that are really pushing things on the next generation of gyms and facilities and things that you've got, and building those multidisciplinary teams. And I think that for students to get placements as interns or whatever it is, I think it's so valuable, not only for them, but for you as well. Like you're recruiting these people, it's really exciting.
It's our supply line, I think, Andy. It's where our recruitment, like you say, where our recruitment will come from. So all of our interns, pretty much, and most of the staff that we have, we've either worked with previously or have been recommended. It's very rarely just a CV these days that does it for us, because we get so many of them.
Yeah, and so no, I think that's how do you do it then? So that they literally come and work with you in the business for a period of time, or like how do you do it? Because I agree, CVs are they're literally pieces of paper, aren't they?
Yeah. So we shortlist, and then we have interviews, a couple of interviews. They spend a morning, I think, or a day with us around the place to see how they fit, and then providing we're happy, we go for it. I think, again, with placement students, you can't be too selective. So we don't, this isn't like, it's more about their character and what they're like and whether they live locally as well. So like practically, will they be able to afford to live where we are? Will they be able to get in at 6 o'clock in the morning for an early morning gym, S&C programming session or whatever it might be? So there are practical elements too as well. And then we just work really hard to make it work. And we have lots of meetings and kind of keep checking in with them and give them projects to do throughout the year. So they're very much engaged and working as members of staff, I guess. So we have a load of upskill things that we have on our board, and they tick them off when they feel comfortable, and then we get them cracking with stuff. So different bits of equipment, and even working on the front desk and like learning to be with patients and answer the phone, all those kind of things, which is cool.
Yeah, no, I think all those other skills that are around it, just speaking to people, doing anything, I think is really helpful. So it must be really satisfying for John when he sees what you've gone on to do, and like John's really cool. And like you say, he's abroad doing that now. So how did you set that up with John originally?
So the initial link. I think I had a PE teacher that was in the academy, an academy coach, and he basically arranged it with John directly. I was really lucky, basically. And in fact, I think it was even arranged before John arrived. So it was arranged through another physio called Glenn Driscoll, who's been with Brendan Rodgers over the last few years, working with him. But he was the academy physio and he arranged it. And then John had come into post and I turned up on the same day or something crazy. He's like, who's this little guy? And yeah, so initially he was like, what's going on? But then I managed to win him over 3 weeks, which was great. And then at the end, he just said, like, let's keep in touch. And I think that's the thing. If you can leave a good taste in someone's mouth, then they'll go with it, won't they? Which is great.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I love hearing stories like that because it's like, who knows if you hadn't have got that, like where it would have ended up and things. So I think those placements and finding someone that's helpful and a good mentor and giving you opportunities, which you're obviously paying back now with the way that you're doing things there as well.
Yeah, so, we definitely feel like that. I think where we feel like we were helped, we want to definitely help, and particularly help local kids as well. So we have lots of school visits that come in. So A-level PE, GCSE PE, and kind of BTECs. And we'll say to them, careers advice-wise, you guys can come in and speak to any of our team at any stage about any of the courses that you're thinking of doing. And that's really good. So we have a constant number of people coming in to talk about that. So we want to be known. And for me, from a business point of view, that's basically just looking after recruitment, isn't it, for the future? So kind of making sure there's a few irons in the fire and potentially they might come through at some point when we need them, which is good.
No, it's brilliant, isn't it? Because like recruitment it's never the easiest. If you need to know people because even it's not that people are good or bad, it's just the right fit for the environment that they're in, isn't it? And so in terms of like you then, so you graduated at sports rehab at Salford. Like who are some of the other people in the year that we may know?
Anthony Greenhouse, first team physio at Man City. Lee Halftek, who's a great physio. He's got youth athletics and has a clinic in Liverpool with his wife. Who else? Brendan Skinner, who's a lecturer at university. There's a few. Yeah, they're all dotted around. But yeah, we've kept in touch. Lots of them went into education as well, actually, which is good.
Yeah, that's really good. So what happened when you came out of Salford?
What do you mean in terms of jobs?
Yeah. What was the next step?
Yeah, so I headed back to Reading, and luckily, literally, because the ice hockey season generally starts August, September, they get together. So I graduated in the July, and I was lucky enough that there was an opportunity to go and work full time with the Bracknell Bees, who were an ice hockey team at the time. And they basically said, I think they offered £500 a month salary, but I could have a clinic room out of the rink. So I set up like a little room on my own, saw patients there, and then worked with the team whenever they were training. And that was a really immersive year of traveling all over the UK and seeing all sorts of traumatic injuries associated with ice hockey. Crazy sport, but it was really good. And I was young and I lived with my parents, so I didn't have much rent to pay or no rent to pay. So kind of got going with that, and then kind of slowly, gradually started doing more football things and moved that way.
And how comfortable did you feel? And so if you're doing the professional sport work or the sport work, and then you're then running a business basically from there as well. So how comfortable did you feel with that?
Yeah, hard, really terrifying, isn't it? When you even when I was at Reading Football Club and I hadn't worked in clinics for a while, I chose. So this is towards the end, but I ended up doing one night a week in a clinic, and you just don't know what's going to walk through the door. But I think if you're confident in knowing how to triage and kind of assess and refer, then you're fine and it's safe. If you feel like you've got to be the solution for everybody, then there's probably a problem there. So I guess knowing my skill set and where I was at, and also having people I could speak to and refer on to was really helpful. But yeah, certainly a big in the fire. And with the ice hockey guys, because I was 21 at the time and they're all, a lot of them are towards 30, and a lot of them were Canadians and Americans, that was also quite full on as well. But we had a good team doctor, and so he really led that, and I supported that. So it was good.
How long were you there for?
Literally a season, and then the owner pulled the money out of the club, and they went from being full-time to part-time, and at that point I had to leave. And then I started picking up work with Reading and a little bit with Aldershot as well. And I was actually in a band, and so went on to do part-time music, part-time work for about 5 years, which was great. Released a couple of albums, and which at the time I was worried about. I was worried that would take away from the career side of things. But actually, when I ended up working back in full-time football at Reading, everybody's really interested by that and the fact that I've kind of been grafting the whole time. So it's been a good thing.
Yeah, what sort of music was it then?
Indie stuff. So like we played with Zootons and bands like that in Amsterdam, and like we kind of went around a little bit around Europe and a lot around the UK. We had a good booking agent that would get us good gigs with good bands. And we had a little record label and publishing, and still get royalties now, which is quite fun.
It's amazing. Yeah. What was your role in the band then?
I was the singer, obviously. Yeah.
The front man.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, there was like three of us that sang and two guitars. So yeah, it was good. It was a period, 2006 kind of time, where there was lots of indie music in the UK, and it was very popular. And particularly you go into Europe, and because you're a British band, they think you were really cool, even though you weren't that cool and you weren't that big, but they think you were good. So yeah, it was really fun. And I guess one of the big things I'd say to people now is like, don't be apologetic about anything that you've done, and don't worry about what people think about you doing things that are different as well, because they're all threads that kind of being in a small independent band, I guess, helped Go Perform to get good at establishing itself too, because you have to do your own press, you have to do your own promotional stuff, you have to kind of make a name for yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's all relevant skills. And even today, we've been working on something like a promotional video, and I've been storyboarding that today. And Luke and I have been recording voiceovers for it. And they're all skills that are useful. And you could pay somebody lots of money to do that, or you can do half of it yourself and pay the other half. Do you know what I mean? So they're all relevant skills.
Oh, I mean, I'm such a massive advocate, because I've been doing this for 18 odd years. And then when you get someone else in that, I'm like a robot the way I think, and we do this, that's what we do. And then someone else has got a slightly different thing, and it's like, oh my God, yeah, that really makes sense. So I think doing not that it's random, because obviously you're passionate about it and that's the best way, but doing different things, it's amazing what you pick up from doing it.
Totally. So I think with the band, you have to be relentless, because no one cares ultimately. Like, there's loads of other bands doing the same thing. So if you want to be on the radio, you've got to be relentless. We used to queue up outside Radio 1 to hand out demos, and they'd get played like crazily. And I think with Luke, so he'd come out of professional sport for 20 years, very much a brilliant clinician, technically really good, but hadn't done any kind of like entrepreneurial stuff before. Whereas I'd kind of been doing that through being in a band. And so it was a really good mix of both of us working together to get the best out of each other. And my view was, once we had a building and planning permission and a clear, vision of what we wanted to do, there was nothing to stop us really. And we just kind of built from there and leveraged what we had, the little that we had, with the next thing, and it gradually snowballs.
Very good. What were you called, or what are you called?
The Race. We're on Spotify. Yeah, The Race.
The Race.
The Race.
Right. That is what I'm going to be doing that straight after this. I'll text you some feedback. That's really cool. No, I think that's really fascinating. That's I definitely wouldn't have known that one. So I'll check it out. So what made you stop doing that?
So we did 2 albums. After the second album, it was clear. So the first album, you always get a bit of a buzz, and so like we played Reading Festival, and there's a bit of a launch, and you get kind of lots of the radio play because they love new bands. For the second album, if you don't get big enough on that first album, you don't really have enough to push on unless you do something really amazing. So our second album, we recorded with the guy from the Manic Street Preachers, like the producer, really good, big sound, good studio, recorded at a really nice mixing place where Guy Garvey uses now the Dairy in Brixton. And that was my little Manchester reference. And yeah, it was good, but it didn't kind of push on. And so it just felt like it was a good time after 5 years, lots of gigs. I was kind of really ready to get back to my career, I guess. I'd been doing like a day a week for Aldershot Town voluntarily, just to keep my hand in, which was really kind of them to have me as well. And doing bits with Reading, but the band was the focus for 3 or 4 years. And then the Reading FC opportunity came up. It was actually a part-time opportunity initially, but I just said, like, if you don't mind, I'll come in full-time and we'll make it work. And within 6 months, they kind of started talking about a full-time position. And by the end of the year, it was done. So I was there for 6 years.
So when you suggested full-time, were you saying I want full-time pay and I'm going to do that?
No,
Or
no, the opposite. So it was literally, it was crazy. It was £70 a day. So £140 for 2 days either side of a match. So if that's one game, that's 140 quid a week, which is crazy, isn't it? And I was married with a kid at this stage. I was like 30 years old. But I was so desperate. And Luke and John Fern, so John was working there, John Fern, and Luke Anthony was obviously there as well. They were brilliant. It was a really good department. And I was learning loads. And they were paying me to go on like soft tissue courses in London. So I'd go there on my days off on Sundays to study at the North London School of Sports Massage, NLSSM. And it was just brilliant. And I just said, like, the money's not the thing. The opportunity is so much bigger. Let's just see what happens. And kind of stepped out and made it work, really, which is great.
I can definitely see this. You learn a lot from this. I can definitely see why you guys are doing well because, yeah, you've definitely put yourself out there and are willing to do the time to get experiences.
It's funny, isn't it? Even in professional sport now. So there'll be clubs that can't afford a person, member of staff, but they need one. And I feel like if students and graduates could just get past the money thing for the first 2 or 3 years of their career, they'd have incredible opportunities. Because do you know what I mean? And because teams need them, they need manual therapists, they need people, rehabbers to be there working. But sometimes that's the sticking point. And I think if there is a block like that, just take the block away and just turn up and do your job and immerse yourself. And I was lucky, I guess. It was a bit like working for the London Ambulance Service, like, really intense, lots of things happening. We ended up going from the Championship to the Premier League within about 3 seasons. And then the next minute you're in the Premier League and you're on the win bonuses. And it's like, this is crazy. So, yeah, it was good. It was really good.
So where do you sit on that? Because you see people who talk about, oh, well, you need to be getting paid and people sharing all of these different things. Whereas everyone that I speak to in this of, say, our generation or earlier is like, you got to do your time in it. And that's in sport.
Yeah.
But also, I think in any walk of life, really, like one of our guys came on placement with us for 6 months and he's been with us 10 years now. And he's like running the whole department and he's brilliant on it. But without that, would I have given him the opportunity? Probably not, just because you don't know to do it.
I think you've got to earn the right, haven't you? You've got to be trusted. So 3 of our strength and conditioning coaches, 4 maybe, have all started as interns. 1 was at Reading with us, and he's now our head of performance. And the other 3 were interns with us here, which is great, isn't it? And they're now, they're getting rewarded for it financially. Like it all kind of, it grows if you can just be patient. But I do also understand that we shouldn't take the mick out of people. So students and placement, if you can afford to pay students and interns, you should be paying them. So we pay our interns here. So I think clubs have in the past abused that slightly, and I know the rules have changed a little bit about that. But I think if money is genuinely an issue, I'd encourage somebody to just get cracking. So we had a situation over the summer where one of our previous sports therapy interns, a club came to us and said, we haven't got a budget, but we need somebody for the summer. So I rang the guy up and I said, do you know what, just say yes and just go and get the experience, because that'll be the first, brick in your career of experience that will get you the next job. And he did, which is good.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you can tell if someone's taking the mick on something, you know, don't you? Whereas if you're just like, look, this is what we've got at the moment, or we haven't got it, I think that authenticity makes a big part of it. And you're right, you should pay it back or pay it forward, however, which way you want to look at it.
I think going back to Luke and John at Reading, so they really were clinical and they really were sharing this stuff. So I was learning so much. And I think there are probably other departments in other sports teams where the lead physios aren't doing that with the people that are more, I hate to use the word junior staff, but more recent staff. And I think you've got to look at that as well. The learning environment, is it a good learning environment, or is it just another Premier League club potentially needing a body to do whatever it might be? So I think we have a duty of care to the people that come in with us to really develop them over the year, or however long they're with us for. But we do typically say, so we have people asking for elective placements as well. So physios, for example, and it's much harder to have somebody for 6 weeks than it is for 9 months to a year, because it takes them 6 months to get up to speed in terms of how we work. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a massive advocate. We've got someone who's, I happen to know her mum, who's one of our clients actually, but I know her really well. And her daughter's now been with us for 3 months and she's absolutely brilliant. So she's on her
Yeah,
gap year, but we definitely, if she's watching this, I probably shouldn't make it that public, but we definitely wanted to work with us because she's so good
yeah,
and she's been
it's good.
absolutely brilliant. And it's great for her experience. And you get to know people and they get to know
Yeah,
you, and it's like, actually, no, this is the right environment for you. So yeah, I think the internship model is a great one, and I think it can be used more. I was did one with Liam Rogers, who's an Aussie physio in London, and he was just saying that is the model, or more so of a model in Australia. And it's so helpful for everyone because they'll
yeah.
be learning so much with you. You learn so much with John and Luke. And
Mm,
we should be creating an environment where they can learn everything, not just clinical stuff, but running a business and
yeah,
sales in healthcare, whatever it may be. You learn
yeah,
so much from doing it.
definitely. And I think I say to our guys here, like the opportunity at Go Perform is limitless. So they can literally take their careers and curate their careers in whatever direction they want to go in, because there's a limitless number of people that need our services. So we just need to be creative and smart. So we'll have literally like blue sky thinking times where we'll just dream up some things and thoughts about, things they might want to do and work on and projects, which is really exciting because, as we know, like health is becoming about health span now, isn't it? Like, how healthy can people be for longer, and equally young ones as well want to be developed too. So there's limitless numbers of people to work with, which is really cool. I think the other thing we try and do is we want to know like where our guys are at in terms of like things like buying houses or where they want to be in a few years time, because we want to help with that as well. So we have annual appraisals every year where we talk about finances and the pay and those kind of things. And we want to be really transparent about that and show people that there is a plan with us. And it's not just, oh, we can employ somebody for X amount of money and, get somebody else in to replace you if we need to. Because I think the relationships that people build over time with our customers are really important. And that's almost like individual IP that they hold that's really valuable. And so, the people that come here don't want new coaches every 5 minutes. They love the new interns and they love new people to come in and add to what we do. But we're really, grateful that over 7 years we haven't lost any staff, which is really cool. They've all stayed, which is great.
Yeah, no,
So yeah,
that's definitely a testament to the culture and environment that you've got there. And I think it's just you talking about it. It's authentic, it's genuine. So like, how important to you is that authenticity of what your plan is, what your mission is, all of those things?
it's probably the most important thing. I'm lucky that Luke feels the same way. So we want something that's sustainable and long term. That means that we can live where we live, support our families, enjoy our work, and we want the same for the staff that work here as well. Um, and I think there'll be other businesses that might grow quicker and have a bigger profit margin, maybe, but they might also burn out quicker as well. Whereas I see it as a really precious thing that we've got to look after and nurture, a bit like a garden, like just continually prune and shape and add bits and so things like, we do surveys every year with all the people that come here and ask them how they're finding things. We've done surveys with our staff in the past. They're called pulse checks, where you kind of anonymously check in and see how people are feeling about our things, like how cared for, how good the stretcher is, how involved they are, whether we're making progress and whether they believe in what we're doing. And it's fun. It's really cool. We're quite agile, so we can kind of do all sorts of things.
Yeah, I might ask you for some information on like the feedback that you get because I think that's a really
Yeah.
good idea. And then in
Thing is, I
terms of
think,
you, like
yeah.
you've done loads of things here, like imposter syndrome. Why have you ever? Is that something you've experienced with all the different things that you've done?
Probably, yeah. Remember when we started, we did loads of seminars and workshops because that was a way of getting people in the building. Because we felt like when people were in the building, they would want to know more. So that was the top of our funnel, like physically, inviting triathlon clubs to talk about that and schools and young. We did a female athlete seminar recently. So standing up the front, uh, ironically, when I'm a singer, but like that felt odd. Like we did sports medicine conferences early on as well, and um, I think when you've got no choice, you've just got to make it happen, which is really good. So I'm not embarrassed to. No, I'm not worried about embarrassing myself. It's lovely to do it with other people. I think if it was on your own, it'd be harder. So there's definitely strength and depth with the numbers. Um, but yeah, there'll be times, and again, like, I feel like we've created good safety nets around us. So obviously, clinically, Luke's a really good backstop. So he's already been in the room with me this morning giving an opinion on something that I wanted him to have a look at, which is great. And it's the same for all of our staff. And then where he might lack in kind of the entrepreneurial side, then I'll say, no, that's a good take, like that was good what we just did, or do that. Or so he used to hate being photographed and filmed because it felt really unnatural. And as a physio working in sport, it's not about being front and center, it's about being in the background. But you have to do that if you're going to promote your business, don't you? So I guess we've just all encouraged each other along the way. And it doesn't mean that we all feel comfortable all the time, but it's a bit like any sport. You can turn on a performance persona, can't you, and deliver what you need to deliver, and then think about it afterwards.
Yeah, no, I think it is. It's a good way to do it. So how did Go Perform come about then?
So we're lucky. So 2005. Well, it's funny. I'm pretty sure we talked about when we were at the training ground at Reading. We could see, so every now and then there'd be somebody external that would come in, like a tennis player or a referee or somebody. But generally, people weren't allowed to use the facility, even though we had the anti-gravity treadmill and things that people would need in the public. And there weren't any treadmills around where we were in Reading at the time, and other things. So as favours, sometimes somebody would come in and get an opinion. But I remember thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if anyone could access this kind of facility? And then I spent some time in the intensive rehab unit at Bisham Abbey after I left Reading. And I saw what the British Olympic Association were doing with their unit there, but only 3 or 4 people could go a week. And they had all these staff, so multidisciplinary team, but only 3 or 4 people accessing it on a weekly basis, but not really, super extended periods. It was like an input. So we had this idea of trying to create a rehab type environment. That was probably our first thing. And then we also had a really good strength and conditioning coach at Reading, Tristan Baker. And so we said, what could we start some training around it? And we just kind of built this idea. And in 2015, we were both working at Reading, and Luke and I, and we both were relieved of our jobs because a new manager came and changed the staff. And you get paid off for that, don't you, obviously? So you have suddenly some money and some time to think about what you want to do next. And we said to each other, like, let's work on this over the summer. And we got quite close. Like, we looked at some buildings, and we spoke to John Fern as well about it, and got some investment ideas from people. But we agreed that if a full-time job came up in the short term, then we'd obviously be free to do that. So Luke was offered a job at Norwich City, and he decided that was the right thing to do. So he went and did that. And I was offered a job at Derby, but I didn't want to move my family. So I ended up doing 2 days a week for Derby and 3 days in Reading, back as a clinic essentially, and called it Go Perform. It was just me working out of a Pilates studio. And then I also did some stuff at Bisham Abbey as well. And that went on for a couple of years. And then start 2017, Luke was ready to move back because his family was still living down here. So we gave ourselves some months really to look for warehouses and buildings. Because the problem is, as you know, like if you have an office building, the square footage cost is quite expensive. But if you have a warehouse, it's about half the price. But to get planning on a warehouse for this kind of use is hard, particularly hard back then as well. So I think we looked at over 20 buildings, and lots of the landlords didn't want us to be there. But then we found one that did, whose dad was a physio and understood what we were trying to do. And then we had to try and get planning permission. And there was some act from 1978 that was saying that, this place in Reading where we are couldn't be used for anything that was non-industrial. And so they rejected our planning applications. That was hard. So we didn't have a building to work out of. But it got to the stage where we were thinking, if we do get this over the line, we've got no excuse. This is going to happen. And so we appealed against that decision and said, look, in Reading, actually, it's quite a high-tech town. There's lots of workers, and the modern industry is people. It's not bricks and bulbs and beer like it used to be. And we got support from the owner of the football club and a few other people in the area. And they gave us a short-term 5-year permission to use a building to do what we're doing now. So we went for it, and we managed to get investors from some of the people that we'd worked with in the past, like football players, coaches, managers, business people, maybe raised, I don't know, £100,000 or so that way. And that gave us the capital kind of startup that we needed to buy the anti-gravity treadmill and to buy some of the equipment and to employ 4 people full time, including 2 of us. And then we got going in the building that you probably saw, the smaller building. And we're 2 years in, then COVID hit, and that was hard. But thankfully we had enough kind of, and because we employed everybody, we were able to furlough people. So that was a really nice thing actually at the time. But because we'd gone out of our way to pay, the extra money that you do when you employ somebody, we were supported with that, which is great. And then within 3-4 years, we moved into a bigger building and we got permanent planning permission to be here. Let's Go Perform long term, which is really good. So it's been a journey, and it's been hard, but also really brilliant as well.
Have there been any stages where you thought, my God, I wish that planning permission hadn't been approved after the submission?
Literally not. No, I've loved it. Because I think we're building something for the long term. So I've got 3 kids and I want to be around, and I don't really want to be doing weekends or traveling with teams. And I love the fact that people now come to us and we can curate or work the hours that we want to work and manage our own diaries. But it's hard. The days are really long. It's nice to get to the stage where you're not working every evening on the business as well as a full day of clinic and trying to type up your notes and do all the other bits, but we'll get there. Yeah, we're working on it.
So do you have like a mission and purpose, values, that sort of thing for the company?
Good question. We haven't gone down like a massively corporate thing, but 3 words that we like to associate with are like environment, experience, and excellence. So environment is about place and how it feels when you walk in, and like really friendly and expert and really good. And always clean and always fresh and not macho or masculine. So our gym is like whitewashed and it's quite colourful and it's good. And then experience is about our experiences, obviously being experienced practitioners, but also again the experience of the person coming in and the fact that they might feel imposter syndrome, they might feel it's a elite environment for elite sports people. But the reality is that's only 5-10% of what we do. Like I had a lady today who's in her 80s, who I see once a week, who's brilliant for rehab. So we work with people up to the age of 97 at the moment, and fairly young as well, probably 8 and up, I'd imagine, with our like youth academy that we do. And then the final one, environmental excellence, is the idea that we're trying to work towards getting better. So we want to constantly be trying to improve ourselves, and also the building and the space, and like that's our aspiration really. So to not get stuck and so we have learning objectives we're always working on and thinking about courses that we're going on and paying for. And we talk about that a lot as a team.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's good to have those kind of core values and things that you're sticking to. I think it is really interesting that everyone will associate you guys with, and most other sports clinics is with semi-pro, all of those people it's actually all the Alter G, the shockwave, whatever it is, dynamometry, it's all relevant for everyone.
Exactly. Exactly right. I think that thing of health span, they're trying to help people to get healthier and stronger wherever they're starting from is probably one of our main values, and also to be really good value as well. So we package things together into memberships and things, and even into groups sometimes to make it more affordable. So which is really good. Even our shockwave, like we try not to just charge what everyone else charges and just to do that as a standalone thing, but to really give someone a graduated loading plan to help their tendon or whatever it might be that they're working on. So all we really want is for people to get better and to not come back, and then to be able to say that was a really good input when I needed it, and then they refer other people in all the time. So we're not looking like some physio clinics, for example, would be looking at rebooking rates and things like that. We've got no interest in rebooking rates. We'd be concerned if people were thinking like that. Our view is you give somebody the best that you've got and you support them, and if they choose and if it's the best thing for them to come back, of course they will, but we're not looking to automatically do that. I don't need to get you to come back in 2 weeks to ask you how your tendon's feeling. I can do that via email, can't I? And that's where people like Peter Maliaris, like in Australia, who works, he's in the bush more remotely, like he can do really good online stuff and advise and support and educate people that way, and we try and do that through Go Perform as well, and people I think like us for that.
Yeah. Well, where do you see the future of the private MSK industry then?
Golly, that's a big question. I haven't thought about it that much. I don't know. You have to ask from like Jack Chews, but I don't know. Where do I see it going?
Well, just like from that side, like you've come into this space and we've seen massive growth in it. Like the NHS is not sustainable. You've seen a lot more people. Like, do you see that continuing to grow, to diversify? Like,
I guess so. I think hopefully there'll be lots of good clinics. Hopefully there'll be much more of a sports like rehab S&C kind of model rather than passive bits and bobs in rooms around the place. That'd be really good. I feel like patients are more educated than we realise, and often people are quite patronised. But the people we work with are really switched on and really good. And they just need good prescription of exercise. And that's probably the most important thing other than the assessment that we do. So I think almost the future of MSK is in robusting bodies, isn't it? However you do that. That's probably, I don't know if that's the right answer for you in terms of what clinics will look like. I don't know.
I don't even know, to be honest, myself, really, because you're always looking at it. I think that's what it is. I think there's more people that need this. They're more aware that they need it. They're more willing to pay for it. And I think that's really positive that we're seeing people like you that are doing this and the other clinics, and there's loads of exciting scope for it. And it's like that. Your body is your most important asset.
Yeah, I think it's like an honest estate agent will tell you what's wrong with the house, won't they? They'll, almost like a mate would, like, just, this is this and this is that, just so you know what you're dealing with. I think we try and be really honest and pragmatic and say, these are your options. This is how your shoulders look in, for example. These are things you can do. And people appreciate that. And whether that's with us or with somebody else is irrelevant. So I had a golfer yesterday with chronic lower back pain, hasn't done much S&C. I've got a really good remote guy. So we do that here. We could easily build him a program, but I've got a better fit for him who's a friend of mine who lives nearer where this guy is. And he's the right person for that guy to see. So I think almost having that patient or customer focused approach of like trying to do the right bit for that person, I think pays back in dividends, rather than holding on to things and doing things that are not as good as they could be. An example might be of a clinic. So I know clinics where if someone goes in with back pain, the physio will do a bit of work with them. For whatever reason, they improve. And then they say, right, we're going to keep you on a maintenance plan once a month, a massage of your lower back for however long we can keep you. I mean, that's just embarrassing, isn't it? Like, to me, if somebody loves massage, fair enough, like, all the best. But to say they have to stay on a maintenance plan to have their back massaged, like, that's ridiculous. And to me, that's a business focused approach rather than a patient focused approach. So yeah, hopefully businesses will get better and clinics will get better and gyms will get better at really looking after people. And then there's no shortage of people to work with.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's up to us to lift the whole industry up, and I think it's happening. I think it's making awareness, getting more value, respect, expectations of people that they need to invest in doing this, or that they certainly do if they want to be active for longer. So no, I think it's really good. And then you mentioned Centurions. I'd not actually heard of that book before. What's that about?
Yeah, it's a book. It's a really good book, actually. It's a while since I read it, unfortunately, but it's a book looking at businesses and groups that have been around for over 100 years and what makes them good. So some of their characteristics, which is really cool. And so some of one of the main ones that I got from it was just about profit margin and not trying to be aggressively trying to make loads of money, but trying to build something over time. Having a really like things like Levi's. There's some good examples, Colgate, good examples of companies that have had really clear values about what they were trying to do, and people still buy into them now, which is great. Another trait was being porous, so inviting people to come in and critique and ask questions and look at what you're doing is really important as well. But it's a good book. I think there was a grammar school in Reading that we've been working with, and they've changed some of their selection criteria, and they now include like physical testing as part of it, which is really exciting, and we help them with that. And it's the idea of trying to encourage young lads that may be physically quite good, but can't be aggressively tutored towards their 11 plus, giving them an opportunity, if they pass their 11 plus, to still go to a grammar school, which is great. And I said, how did you win over the parents? Like, because they must have been, some of them must have been quite miffed that suddenly, I think it's 15 a year, sports scholars are taking those places away. And he said, well, we've been reading this book, Centurions, and that's what it's, we told everyone to read it, and that's where we're going as a school. And so I read it off the back of that. I thought that was pretty cool.
No, very good.
Changing things.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Look, I really appreciate you sharing, and it is great to hear. It's really good to hear it because you genuinely do come across really authentic. I know you're doing a great job there. I know Luke's a great guy as well. So well done for doing what you're doing, because I think it's great, and I love what you're doing with the internships and really developing those areas. So it's great, and I'll look forward to coming back and seeing the bigger space.
Very nice. Thanks, Andy.
No problem. Brilliant. Look, appreciate it, Dan, and thanks for your time.
Cheers, Andy.